Good morning, my name is illustrious disciple of an angel, Neil Leslie Gilbert Williams Jack's nephew, and I'm messaging this post about righteousness, righteousness righteously obedient civil behavior and empowerment and encouragement of this. Today is Friday, the 31st day of the month of May, year AD 2024, and it's now 09:16 hours ante-meridium. I was just viewing and listening to media, that's the music videos and some of the past charted movies or snippets of them, and usually I reflect on my own life or geography when doing this, and the similarity of situations and circumstances of previous occurrences, which usually synchronize with a systematic procedure. So I wanted to ask for ministers and governors, officers and directors to come together to discuss, which already happens, but to sort of make, I suppose, urgent priority this. I consider citizens, or I would hope some citizens, hopefully the overall majority citizens, which is and could be internationally done too, but I would think of the overall majority of citizens to be righteously obedient and civil. I would interpret that to be obedient to common law, or at least try to, within the defending parameters of the law as well, so it's still compliant if one has to defend themselves, blah blah blah. So righteously, or I suppose compliant would be a better terminology. Righteously compliant with common law, righteously compliant with civil law, and righteously compliant with canon law. Of course, common law applies to everybody. Civil law would apply to mainly the officers and directors, and the canon law would apply to, I guess, Christians. And of course, all of the laws would apply to a person who, I say Christians, I think it's a Christianity thing, it's possibly religion. Canon law is likely to be religion, so effectively I'll say religion rather than Christianity, because if you're Muslim or other, it wouldn't be Christian. So effectively, canon law for religion, I'll say that, because maybe there's a word which isn't canon but the same thing. But in English, canon law. So effectively, if one is compliant to those, if you're all of those, then of course one would have been in a position of state or office, which could be in the private sector or the public sector or other. Of course, compliant with religion arrangements and law, and of course obedient to the common law. effectively, if one is all of these, or one or more than one, can or will the office and directors type people develop or to encourage and sustain empowerment of those that are compliant with the system? I'll give an example, a thought which prompted me to, or my thought which prompted me to make this post, and of course it's very draft, it usually is, which is that a person who isn't compliant with one or more of the laws, are with a win-win situation. I'll say, for example, a common law. In common law, one would or could commit an offence of robbery or something which involves stealing. What they do with it, it could be selling it or keeping it for their convenience, would be either caught eventually or not caught. So effectively, if they're not caught, they gain the finance or the estate. Well, illegally it wouldn't be estate, it wouldn't be classified as, but it would be through stolen, as it would never be their property, but like as if it's their estate or the finances from it. And of course, if they're caught, they are still given a bed and food. So they're given shelter and the food and drink. And of course, if this is continued via the sentencing as a custodial sentence, shelter still, and the freedom to still have food, drink, and a bed to sleep in. Whereas someone who may be compliant with the laws could effectively, well, this could be because of mismanagement of money, of their income, or perhaps a situation that's unfortunate, for example, an accident which would involve having to afford something which would need to replace. So I guess maybe this would apply maybe to people who aren't with a capital. Effectively, I could say I consider myself to be upper class, or at least from an upper class upbringing, but of poor in relation to my financial standing, in relation to my capital financial standing, as I could earn millions this hour, legally receipted and so on. But of course, someone who isn't with the credentials to do that can only have a wage slip, as I'm corporation tax registered, etc. So, to cut a long story short, I have a poor capital financial standing. I don't have anything but what I have coming in. So effectively, I have to have a commit with or two type budgeting, which can go wrong. For example, if I have an accident in a car or appliance breaks down, which effectively could be insured, usually is. I usually try to insure. However, in the short term, as usually an insurance claim is a lengthy process, it can take several days, which runs into weeks. That could be several weeks or even over a month or something. And of course, in the meantime, one wouldn't have what has broken. So one would need to do something about it, which would probably cost some way. So effectively, can those in power, those who plan for others' budgets and things in power, those who are obedient, righteously obedient to laws, to, I suppose, encourage people to not turn to crime, which I view, which I think a criminal could view, or I can understand, it could be a win-win, as no matter what happens, there will always be with a bed to sleep in, and of course something to eat and drink. Whereas a person who wouldn't turn to crime, which I'm asking for the empowerment there, for the credit score system and other systems to be reviewed, as if my bed broke and I hadn't the money to replace it, if I turn to crime, then perhaps I'll have a bed to sleep in. It could only be short term, probably, because when I'm released I'll still have the same issue or problem. But if I'm not caught, as I stated earlier, as an example, if I say I as the citizen, then effectively I would gain through having the finances to buy a bed, or the bed itself if I stole one, which may be difficult, but as for argument's sake, for my argument, that's the point that I'm making. And of course, the vulnerability to bribery. I'll give you something to do this illegitimate process, or that illegitimate process, whatever it is, which of course you're again at risk, but again it would be a win-win if you receive something that you can have for the short mid-term. You could get caught in the mid-long term, but effectively you will still have a bed to sleep in and food and drink to have. Of course, I say the solution could be reinstatement and direction, such like the countries or continents which have death sentence as penalties, where one is deprived from their life, which means that they wouldn't have a bed to sleep in and the food and drink to consume. Effectively, that I know is carefully measured. So effectively, if that is the sentence, then one would take into account the cases of the kind of which one has committed, and would suggest that, in comparison to someone who is compliant and obedient, one shouldn't deserve a bed to sleep in and food and drink to eat, as one is dodging that process but suffering through it. So effectively, can this be discussed? Wishing you all well, apart from the ones I do not. Goodbye.